One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.
Are there specific engagement opportunities that you guys have rolled out that have been really effective with this cohort that we're talking about in terms of the younger donors?
Not overwhelmingly yet, but I think we started a program a few years ago called the Young Cardinal Challenge that essentially was a competition amongst undergrad alums who were student athletes who had graduated 10 years ago or fewer, to try to generate on a percentage basis to see which program could generate the most support from the alums in that cohort. And that was successful at stimulating additional activity from young alums who were former student athletes. So in that way, that's been successful. But on a sort of larger scale, we continue to work on it, and we continue to be challenged by it. But I think an important first step is understanding the challenge that lies ahead, and really analytically knowing what the lifetime value of a customer is, and being able to make resource allocation decisions with that perspective in mind, rather than just a short-term ROI perspective.
Have you all done analysis on this front to the extent of being able to say, if we can effectively engage this cohort, we can capture an extra X million in donation revenue per annual?
Well, we would like to be that granular with the analysis, but we haven't got there yet. We're working towards that. But we do understand the correlation between early participation and subsequent major gifts later in life. And the probability of somebody making a major gift later in life is significantly enhanced if they participate at an early age. I'm quite confident that that's a trend that's common across institutions, and it's something that I think people around the country ought to study. And I think actually the Pac-12 conference should be commended for an initiative they're starting out of the conference office to try to help schools have better access to actionable data in this regard. It's a complicated data management project to be able to get the information that's necessary to track donor behavior over time, especially going back and looking historically at some data that's 10, 15, 20, 30 years old. It might not be as clean or as complete as we would desire.
Are there other higher education brands, or for that matter, business brands, that you look to and often gauge success against, who provide somewhat of a roadmap on how you guys want to track this type of opportunity? Who do you look at as examples of doing that right?
That's a really good question. I think we look at some of the more contemporary philanthropic brands that are in fact successful at engaging younger folks, and brands such as Kiva.org come to mind. And Kiva is a microloan platform that allows folks to loan money to people overseas who might be merchants or entrepreneurs in countries where they don't have easy access to capital. Some of these brands do a really good job at creating the type of communication and outreach that has been effective with younger donors, and it's something that we look towards as we develop our own programs.
Okay, so lastly, let's look a decade ahead from now. What would success for you, if you're at Stanford or another institution 10 years from now, what would success look like in this capacity?
Well, it's actually a really interesting question, because if you think about what is the best thing in the short term, and this goes back again to the sort of the innovator's dilemma that we talked about before, the best thing in the short term would be to have 100% of our donors be in an age bracket where they have as much money as possible, right? If you had to take a snapshot in time, you would want 100% of your donors to be in the age bracket where their wealth is maximized. But that's obviously not the optimal situation in terms of sustainable support. So we would want to be able to at least get to a point where our age distribution of our donor base matches the age distribution of the donor base of the university at large. Like, we don't want there to be a systematic reason why young people are supporting athletics at a less than representative rate compared to the degree they support Stanford University at large. And similarly, we don't want there necessarily to be a reason why older donors are supporting Stanford athletics at a higher than representative rate. We want there to be a rate of participation across age brackets that is representative of the university's donor demographic distribution at large.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.